Cecily? Cecily? Your German grammar is on the table. Is the watering of flowers not more merriment than your own? Especially at moments when intellectual pleasure awaits you. Pray turn to page 15. We shall repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German as he's leaving for town.
Uncle John is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of him. His gravity of demeanor is to be especially commended in one so comparatively young as he is. Why, I know no one else with a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I guess that's why he always looks so bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life, but idle merriment and triviality would be completely out of place in his character. What you must remember is his constant anxiety over that unfortunate young man's younger brother.
I wish you'd allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here and visit sometimes. I think we might have a good influence over him. I know you simply would, Miss Prism. With your knowledge of German and geology and all that, you influence the man very much.
Well, I don't know that even I could produce an effect on a character that, by his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I don't know that I would desire to reclaim him. I'm not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. You should put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary to do the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, then I should probably forget to about them.
Memory, dear Cecily, is the diary which we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened. It couldn't possibly have happened. I believe memory is responsible for the 3-volume novel that Molly sent us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? Oh, how simply clever you are. I hope it's not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but it just seems so unfair. Was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. To your work, child, these speculations are profitless.
But I see Dr. Chasuble coming up to the garden.
Oh, Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
How are we this morning? Miss Prism, I trust you are well.
Miss Prism has just been complaining about the slight headache. I believe you'll do her so much good. That will show with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything about a headache.
No, I know that, dear Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Yes, of things like that, and not about my German lesson. When the rector came in.
I hope, dear Cecily, that you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from beast. But where is Mr. Worthing?
We did not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Oh, that's right. He likes to spend his Sundays in town. He's not one of those whose sole lane is pleasure, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at Evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, that I will have a stroll with you. I find I have a headache after all, and that what might do some good.
Splendid, splendid. We might go as far as the schools and that.
That would be delightful. The chapter on the fall of the rupee you may omit. It is a bit too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side. Poor political economy, poor geography, poor German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with...
Mr. Ernest Worthing before the Albany W. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I mentioned that you and his prison were here in the garden, and he said he was very anxious to speak with you privately.
Well, tell Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here. And you better talk to the housekeeper about the room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met anyone really with a person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm afraid he'll look just like everyone else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You're under some strange mistake, for I am not little. In fact, I believe I'm usually quite tall for my age. But you, I see by your collar on my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked at all, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us on a very inexcusable manner. I hope you've not been pretending to be wicked and good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Oh, well, of course I've been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear.
In fact, now that you mention it, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you'd be so proud of that, though I'm sure it's very pleasant.
It's much pleasanter being here with you.
I don't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
And that is a great disappointment, for I'm obliged to go up on the first train on Monday morning. I have a very important business meeting I'm anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
Now, the meeting is in London.
I know how important it is not to keep a business engagement. If one was to retain any sense of future life, but I still think you should wait till Uncle Jack arrives. He wants to talk to you about your immigration.
About my what?
You're immigrating. He's gone out for your outfit.
Certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will require neckties. He's sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, at dinner on Wednesday night, he said you had to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
I've received accounts for both Australia and the next world, and neither seem particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, if you will.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It's rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You look a little worse.
That is because I'm hungry.
Tell me. I should have known that when one is leading an Italian life, one requires good wholesome milk. Do come in.
Thank you, but might I have a buttonhole first? I never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A Marshall?
No, I'd sooner have a red rose.
Why?
Because you are like a red rose.
I don't think you should talk to me like that. Miss Prism never said such things to me.
Well, Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says good looks are a snare.
They are a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught up in.
I don't think I would like to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are too much alone here, Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. Mrs. Drew, I can understand, but woman Drew, never.
I don't deserve so neologistic praise. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
Well, that is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. What you do not realize is that by remaining single, a man converts himself into a constant couple of temptation. Men should be more careful. His very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
Is a man not equally attractive when he is married?
No married man is ever attractive, except his wife.
And often I've been told not even by her.
That would depend upon the Mr. Worthing,
Mr. Worthing?
we did not expect you until Monday afternoon.
I've returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Caspel, I hope you're well.
Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still living his life of pleasure.
dead,
Your brother is dead.
quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, you have my most sincere condolence. You at least have the comfort of knowing that you are always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but is a sad. No.
Were you with him at the end?
No. He died abroad in Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Now, charity, Nicholson, charity. I myself am particularly susceptible to drafts, and no man is perfect. You would no doubt like me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction in my sermon on Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of a manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion. Or as distressing. I preached it at harvest celebrations, at christenings, confirmations, on feastal days and days of humiliation. The last time I preached it was at the cathedral, as a charity sermon for the benefit of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Orders. I'm struck by some of the analogies that I've heard.
That reminds me. You mentioned christenings, I think, Doctor? I suppose you know how to christen, all right? I mean, of course, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in the parish. I've often spoken to the poorer classes on the subject, but they do not seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I take it, unmarried?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any child, dear Doctor. I myself am particularly fond of children. No. The fact is, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
Do you have any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly didn't have. Unless, of course, you think I'm a little too old now, or the thing would bother you in any way.
No, not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
Oh, you need not be worried. Sprinkling is all that is required, or I dare say advisable. Our weather is very changeable. What time would you like the ceremony to be performed?
Oh, I might trot round about 5 o'clock, if that would suit you.
Perfectly. I have two similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins has recently occurred in one of the outlying cottages of your own estate. Poor Jenkins the carter, such a hard-working man.
Oh, I don't see much fun in being christened along with other babies. It would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, I will no longer intrude upon a house of woe, but be confident. What seem to us as bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of the most obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I'm very pleased to see you are back, but what poor clothes you've got on. You go change them.
Cecily!
My child.
Uncle Jack, what's the matter? You look like as if you got a toothache. And I've got such a surprise for you. You'll never guess who's in the dining room. Your brother. Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
Don't say that.
penny.
Brother John, I have come down from town to tell you that I'm extremely sorry for all the trouble I've caused you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you will not refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think it's coming down to disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Mr. Earnest here has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury. How he goes to visit so often. And there must be good in one who visits the poor invalid and sends by his fetish pain.
Oh, he's been talking to you about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he told me all about Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Bunbury. But I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It is not to try to look perfectly frank.
Of course, I admit all the faults were on my side. But I must say, I find Brother John's coldness towards me peculiarly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it is the first time I have come here.
Uncle Jack, if you do not take your brother's hand, I will never forgive you.
I never forgive you.
Never, never, never.
Well, it is the last time I shall ever do it.
It is good, isn't it, to see so perfect a reconciliation? Now let us leave the two brothers alone.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
It is a beautiful action you have done today, my child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
And we're very happy.
Don't you young scoundrel, we must get on here at once. I don't allow any Bunbury here.
I put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right?
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage. I have put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage.
Yes, sir. 2 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 3 hat boxes, and a rather large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Beg your pardon, sir. There's an elderly gentleman who wishes to see you. Just arrived from the station.
To see me?
Yes, sir.
Parker and Gribsby, solicitors. I'm afraid I don't know who they are.
Parker and Grigsby. Oh, I wonder who they can be. I expect Ernest they're here on some business about your friend Mr. Bunbury. Maybe Bunbury wants to make his will and wishes you to be executor. Show the gentleman in at once.
Yes, sir.
I hope, Ernest, I may rely on the statement you made to me last week when I settled all of your bills for you. I hope you have no outstanding accounts of any kind.
I'm afraid I don't have any debts at all, dear Jack. Thanks to your generosity, I don't owe a penny, except for maybe a few neckties, I believe.
I am sincerely glad to hear it.
Mr. Gribsby.
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
This is Mr. Ernest Worthing.
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
Yes,
Of B. the Albany.
yes, that is my address.
I'm very sorry, sir, but we have a writ of attachment for 20 days against you at the Savoy Hotel Company, limited for £762, 14 and 2 pence.
Against me?
Yes, sir.
What perfect nonsense. I never dine at the Savoy at my own expense. I always dine at Willis's. It is far more expensive. I don't owe a penny to the Savoy.
The writ has been marked as having been served to you personally at the Savoy on May the 27th. Judgment was given in default on the 5th of June. Since then, we have written to you no less than 15 times without receiving any reply. In the interest of our clients, we've had no option but to obtain an order for committal of your person.
Committal? What on earth do you mean by committal? I haven't the smallest intention of going away. I'm staying here for the week. I'm staying with my brother. And if you think that I'm going back up to town the second after I arrive here, you are extremely mistaken.
I'm merely a solicitor myself. I do not employ personal violence of any kind. The officer of the court, whose function it is to seize the person of the debtors, is in the fly outside. He has considerable experience in these matters, which is why we always employ him. But no doubt you want to pay the bill.
Pay it? How on earth am I going to do that? You don't suppose I've got any money? How silly you are. No gentleman ever has any money.
My experience is it's relations who normally pay.
Jack, you really must settle this bill for me.
Kindly allow me to see the particular items, Mr. Grimsby. £762.14 since last October. I am bound to say I've never seen such reckless extravagance in all my life.
762 pounds for eating. There can be little good in a young man who eats so much and so often.
Very far from Wordsworth's plain living and high thinking.
Dr. Chastel, would you consider in any way that I am called upon to pay this monstrous account for my brother?
I would say no. It would be encouraging his profligacy.
As a man sows, so let him reap. This proposed incarceration might be most salutary. It is to be regretted that it is only for 20 days.
I am quite of your opinion.
How ridiculous you are, my dear fellow. You know quite well that the bill is actually yours.
Mine.
Yes, you know it is.
Mr. Worthing, if this is a jest, it is quite out of place.
It is gross effrontery, just as I expected from him.
And it is ingratitude. I didn't expect that.
Never mind what he says. This is how he always goes only. Do you mean now say that you are not my brother, Ernest, residing at the Corby Opening? I wonder as you are at it that you don't deny being my brother at all. Why don't you?
I'm not going to do that, my dear fellow. It would be absurd. Of course I'm your brother, and that is why you should really settle this bill for me.
I will tell you quite candidly that I have the smallest intention of doing anything at the time. And Dr. Chastel, the worthy rector of this parish and this prison, in whose admirable and good sound judgment I place great reliance, are both of the opinion that incarnation would do you a great deal of good. And I think so too.
I'm sorry to disturb this pleasant family meeting, but time presses. We have to be at the Holloway no later than 4 o'clock, otherwise it is difficult to obtain admission. The rules are very strict.
The Holloway?
Yes, it is there that detentions of this character take place always.
I certainly won't be imprisoned in the suburbs for having dined in the West End.
I admit the surroundings are middle class, but the jail itself is fashionable and well aired. There are ample opportunities to take exercise at certain stated hours per day. With a medical certificate, which is always easy to obtain, hours can be extended.
Good heavens, exercise? No gentleman ever takes exercise. You don't seem to know what a gentleman is.
I have met so many of them, sir, I'm afraid I don't. You're right, gentlemen. The result of cultivation, no doubt. Now, sir, if you will kindly come with me, if it will not be inconvenient.
Jack!
Pray be firm, Mr. Worthing.
This is an occasion upon which any weakness would be a form of self-deception.
I'm quite firm, and I don't know what weakness or deception of any kind is.
Uncle Jack, you have some money in mind, don't you? Let me pay this bill. I would hate to see your brother in prison.
Oh, I couldn't possibly let you pay it, Cecily. That would be absurd.
Then you will pay it, won't you? I think you'd be very sorry if your brother was shut up. Of course, I'm quite disappointed in him.
You won't speak to him again, Cecily, will you?
Certainly not. Unless he speaks to me first, and we entirely rude enough to answer him.
Well, I'll take good care he doesn't speak to you. I'll take care he doesn't speak to anybody in this house. The man should be cut. Mr. Grimsby,
Yes, sir.
I will pay this bill for my brother on the condition that he leave immediately to go see his friend Mr. Bunbury, whom I hear is very ill of late. How much is it?
£762.14 Ah, the cab fee will be 5 and 9 pence extra, ordered for the convenience of the client.
All right.
I must say that I find this generosity quite foolish.
Now, the heart has its wisdom as well as the head.
Able to pocket Grimsby, I suppose.
Yes, sir. Kindly don't cross the check. Thank you. Good day. Good day. I hope I shall have the pleasure of meeting you again.
I sincerely hope not. What ideas you have of the sort of society a gentleman wants to mix in. No gentleman ever wants to know a solicitor who wants to imprison one in the suburbs.
Quite so, quite so.
The weather's looking a bit sultry, isn't it, Dr. Tom?
There is thunder in the air.
The atmosphere requires to be clear here.
Have you read the Times today, Mr. Worthing? There's an excellent article in it about the rise of the religious feeling among the laity. I am keeping it for after dinner.
Luncheon is on the table, sir.
Oh, that is good news. I'm excessively hungry.
But you have lunch already.
Lunched already?
Yes, you had some partaken for wild sandwiches and a bottle of that champagne that your doctor ordered for you.
My 74 champagne.
Yes, I thought you liked them about the same as yourself.
Well, if he has lunched once, he can't be expected to lunch twice. It would be license. Even the pagan philosophers condemn excess in eating. Aristotle himself speaks of it with severity. He uses the same words about it that he does about usury. Doctor, will you escort the ladies into luncheon? Oh, with pleasure. Your Bunburying does not seem to have been a great success after all, Algy. I don't think it's a good day for Bunburying myself.
There are ups and downs in Bunburying, just as there are in everything else. I'd be a lot better if you let me have some lunch. The most important thing is that I have seen Cecily and she's a darling.
You are not to talk to Miss Collins like that. I don't like it.
I don't like your clothes. How ridiculous you look in them. Why on earth don't you go and change? And it's perfectly childish to be in mourning for a man who's going to be staying with you for a whole week in your house as your guest. I call it grotesque.
You are most simply not staying with me in my house for a week as a guest or anything else. You have got to leave by the 4:05 train.
I certainly won't leave you so long as you are in mourning. It would be very unkind. If I were in mourning, you'd stay with me, I suppose. I'd think it most unfriendly if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you're not too long about it. I've never seen anyone take so long to dress, and with such little result.
Well, at any rate, that is better than being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally overdressed, I make up for it by being extremely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you will have got to catch the 4:05, and I hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This Bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you after all.
I think it's been a great success. Well, I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must see her before I go. I need to make arrangements for another Bunbury. Oh, there she is.
Oh, I really come back to water the roses. I thought you went off with Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Is he going to take you for a nice drive?
I'm afraid not. He's going to send me away.
Then have we got to part?
I'm afraid so, and it's a very painful parting.
It's always painful to part from someone whom one has known for a very brief space of time. With old friends, one can enjoy equanimity, but a momentary separation from anyone whom one has just met is absolutely unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart has arrived, sir.
It can wait, Mary. For 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you if I say quite openly and frankly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
Your frankness serves you well, Ernest. In fact, if you don't mind, I would like to copy your remarks down into my diary.
You keep a diary? I'd give anything to read it, may I?
Of course not. A girl's diaries are very own thoughts and interpretations, and consequently meant for publication. When it comes out in volume form, I hope you to buy a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I take delight in taking down from dictation. All right, I have reached absolute perfection. You may go on now. I am ready. Don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know what it's spelled for.
Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you violently, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I I don't think you should tell me that you have loved me wildly, passionately, devotedly, and hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't really make a whole lot of sense now, does it?
Cecily,
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
tell her to come back around next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
I don't think Uncle Jack would be very pleased to hear that you're staying till next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anybody else in the whole world but you, Cecily. I love you. You will marry me, won't you?
You still is, Lord, but we have been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how exactly did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have been the chief topic of conversation between Miss Prism and myself. And when one is usually most talked about, one is usually very attractive. One feels there must be something in him. I dare say it was rather foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling, but when exactly did we become engaged?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I was determined in the matter one way or the other. And after a long struggle with myself, I finally accepted you under this old tree here. And here's the ring that I bought in your name. And here's the bangle of the true lover's knot I promised always to wear.
It's very pretty, isn't it? Did I buy you this?
You have extremely good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I give you for leading such a bad life. And here's the box in which I kept all your dear letters.
My letters, but Cecily, I never wrote you any letters.
You need hardly to remind me of that, Ernest. I know I'm supposed to write all your letters for you. I open them 3 times a week, and sometimes often.
Do let me read them, Cecily.
Of course not. It'll make you far too conceited. Besides, the 3 you wrote to me after I broke off our engagement are so beautiful and so proudly spelled that every time I read them, I cry a little.
Was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. On the 22nd of last March. Here. You can see here my entry if you like. Today I broke off the engagement with Ernest. I felt it best to do so. The weather still continued charmingly.
Why was our engagement broken off? What had I done? I had done nothing, Cecily, and I might add, I am very much hurt indeed to hear that you've broken off our engagement, particularly when the weather was so charming.
It had hardly been a real engagement if it had not been broken off at least once. Besides, I forgave you before the week was out.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
You dear romantic boy. Did your hair grow naturally?
Yes, with a little help from others.
I'm glad to hear it.
You won't break off our engagement again, will you, Cecily?
I don't think I could, now that I've actually met you. Besides, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You like that to me, darling. It has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone with the name of Ernest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. I pity any poor woman who doesn't have a husband with the name of Ernest.
Yes, but you don't mean to say you couldn't love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
I don't like the name Algernon.
My dear, sweet, lovely little darling, I don't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not a bad name. It's a very aristocratic name. More than half the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. Seriously, Cecily, if my name were Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I'm afraid I couldn't give you my undivided attention.
Your rector here is, I assume, thoroughly experienced in all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Yes, Dr. Charles was a much learned man. He has never written a single novel, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him at once for the most important christening. I mean, most important business.
Oh?
I shall be back in a half an hour.
Considering that we have been engaged since February the 14th, and we just met today for the first time, I think it's rather hard for you leaving as long as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
Oh, what a fabulous boy he is. I must enter his proposal to my diary.
Miss Fairfax just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business Miss Fairfax states.
Did you tell her Mr. Worthing was in his library?
Mr. Worthing left in the rectory some time ago.
Can you tell Miss Fairfax to come here? And you can bring some tea.
Yes,
Miss Fairfax. I guess it's one of the many elderly women Uncle Jack associates himself with in his philanthropic work. I don't like women who associate themselves with philanthropic work. It's very boring.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew. Cecily Cardew? That's a very sweet name. Something tells me that we are going to be great friends. I like you more than I can already say. My first impressions of people are never wrong. But how nice of you to like me after such a comparatively short time. Pray sit down. I may call you Cecily. May I not? With pleasure. You will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you? If you wish. Oh, then it's all quite settled, is it not? I hope so. Perhaps this will be a favorable opportunity for me mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You haven't heard of Papa, I suppose? I don't think so. Outside the family circle, Papa, I'm glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. A home seems to me to be the proper sphere for the man. And certainly, once he begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? I don't like that. Makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. Why am I looking at you through my glasses? Certainly not at Miss Gwendolyn. I am very fond of being looked at. You are here on a short visit, I suppose? Oh no, I live here. Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years, resides here also? No, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations. Indeed. But my guardian, in the assistance of Miss Prism, had the obvious task of looking after me. Your guardian? Yes, I'm Mr. Worthing's ward. How strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I'm not sure, however, the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you, but I am bound to state, now that I know you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I can't help expressing. I wish you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly. Oh, please do. I think that whenever someone has something unpleasant to say, one should be very candid. Well, Cecily, to speak with perfect candor, I wish you were fully 42 and more than usually considered your age. Ernest has an upright, strong nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. His loyalty would be impossible for him of deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are susceptible to the physical charms of others. Modern no less than ancient history supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, indeed, history would be quite unreadable. I'm sorry, Gwendolyn, did you say Ernest? Yes. Not Mr. Ernest Worthing, who is my guardian, but his brother, his elder brother. Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother. I'm afraid to say they have not been on good speaking terms. That accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I've never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? But you are quite sure it's not Mr. Earnest Worthing who is your guardian? I'm quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his. I beg your pardon. Gwendolyn, there is no reason why I should keep it a secret from you. Our little county newspaper should chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married. My darling Cecily, I feel there's some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will be on the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest. He must be in some strange mistake. exactly 10 minutes ago. It is certainly very curious. For he proposed to me yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident. Pray do so. I never travel anywhere without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I am so very sorry, dear Cecily, to any disappointment to you, but I am afraid I have the prior claim.
I'm sorry to say if it caused you any mental or physical anguish, dear Gwendolyn. But I feel bound to point out that if Ernest proposed to you, then clearly he has changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped and taken foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever entanglements my dear boy has got himself into, I will be sure not to approach to him after the fact we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, comes more than a moral duty to seek one's line. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? Now is not the time to wear the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I'm glad to say I've never seen a spade. It is obvious our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay the tea here as usual?
Yes, as usual.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Yes, quite many. In fact, not far from here on the top of the hill, you can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I'd like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town?
Quite a well-kept garden, too, Miss Cardew.
Glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Yes, flowers are as common here as there are people in London.
Personally, I cannot understand how anyone manages to exist in the country. If anybody who lives, anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
I believe this is what the newspaper call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe that the aristocracy are suffering from it just at hand. It is an epidemic amongst them, so I've been told. Would you like some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl. But I would like tea.
Would you like some sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Would you like some cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rather seen as fast health nowadays.
One is Miss Fairfax.
You have put lumps of sugar in my tea. And though I asked distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To ensure my dear boy from the machinations of a young girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I knew your deceitful impulse. I never seek your responses. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
Well, it seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I have trespassed on your valuable time. There is no doubt that there are other calls you need to make to your character in the neighborhood.
Gwendolyn, darling.
A moment. May I ask if you're engaged to be married, this young lady?
To dear little Cecily? Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there would be some sort of misunderstanding, for the man whose arm is placed around your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack.
Oh, here's Ernest.
My own love.
One moment, Ernest. Are you engaged to this young lady here?
The young lady. Good heavens, Gwendolyn.
I haven't
put such an idea into your pretty little head.
Thank you. You may. I felt there was some slight, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who was now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief. Algernon? Is your name really Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name certainly is John, because the John he is.
It seems to me a gross deception has been placed on the both of us.
My poor wiz, Cecily.
My poor wrong Gwendolyn. My sister, for you. There's one question I would be allowed to ask my daughter. It's a wonderful idea. Mr. Harding, there's just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it's so important to us to know where he is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak truth. It's the first time in my life I've ever been put in such a painful position, and I'm quite unaccustomed to speaking anything of the kind. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother, Ernest. I have no brother at all. I never had a brother, and I certainly don't intend to have a brother in the future.
No brother at all? Mom, have you ever a brother of any kind?
Never, not even of any kind.
I think it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone. That's not a very good position a young girl like to find herself in now, is it? Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there. No men have ever been so cowardly.
This ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, I suppose.
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is. It is the most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my life.
But you have no right whatsoever to bunbury here.
That is absurd. One has the right to Bunbury wherever he wants, and any serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious bunburyist, good heavens.
Well, you must be serious about something to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunburying. What is it you're serious about? I haven't the remotest idea of you having such an absolutely trivial nature.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to go down to the country quite so often as you used to, dear Algy, and a very good thing, too.
Your brother is a little off-color, isn't he, dear Jack? And you won't be able to come up to town quite as often as your wicked custom was, too. And not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I must say that you're taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I can see no defense at all, dear Jack. You're deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax. To say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn, that is all. I love her.
I simply wanted to be married to Cecily. I adore her.
There's certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
I don't see much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
But that is no business of yours.
If it were my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only stockbrokers do that, and even that really at dinner parties.
How can you sit there coldly eating muffins when we are in this horrible job? I can't make out. You seem to me to be perfectly heartless.
I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It is the only way to eat them.
Because you're eating muffins at all under the circumstances.
When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything but food and drink. And at the present moment, I'm eating because I am unhappy. Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
But that's no reason that you should eat them all in that greedy way.
Jack, why don't you eat the tea cake? I wish you would just eat tea cake.
Good heavens, I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
You said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
If it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances, that is a very different thing.
Yes, that may be. But the muffins are the same.
Out
You wasn't expect me to go anywhere without having dinner first. I never go anywhere without my dinner. No one ever does, except for vegetarians and people like that. And besides, I've arranged with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under the name of Ernest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I have made arrangements myself with Dr. Chasuble this morning to be christened at 5:30, and I naturally will take the name Ernest. Gwendolyn would wish it. You can't both be called Ernest, it's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened by the club. There's no evidence of me ever having been christened by anybody. I should think it extremely probable that I never was, and so does Dr. Chasuble. It's entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I haven't been christened in years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That's the important thing.
Quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. But if you're not sure about your ever having been christened, I dare say it's very dangerous of you to be venturing upon it now. You might become very unwell. Certainly you remember a very close friend of yours was nearly carried off in Paris last week by a severe chill.
Yes, but you said yourself the severe chill wasn't hereditary.
Oh, it used to be, but I dare say it is now. Science is always coming up with wonderful improvements in things.
That's nonsense. You are always talking nonsense.
Jack, you're at the muffins again. I wish you would.
But I hate tea cake!
Why on earth do you serve it up for your guests? Some ideas you have of hospitality.
Algernon, I already told you to go. I don't want you here. Why don't you go?
I haven't finished my tea and there's still one muffin left.